Welcome to How to Beat the Difference with your hosts, Johanna and Paul. A podcast for the career you want, or maybe just that push you need. If you want to know what your dream career looks like, join us to get inspiration from industry experts that will make that dream career a reality.
Hello, and you are very welcome along to How to Beat the Difference with your hosts, Paul Linsky and
Joanna Molina. How are you, Paul? How was your Easter holiday?
It was good. The clocks have gone forward last month and we're getting longer days. The sun's slowly coming back in, so I'm happy. And we're coming out of lockdown as well. How about yourself, Joanna?
I'm also happy. And yes, I think the weather has a lot to do with that. When you are in nice sunny weather, you tend to be happier. Nothing like coming close to the summer, right?
Yeah, we get a probably about a couple of weeks of sunshine a year, so we have to make the most of it. Today we have a fantastic guest, and he's going to be talking about business. Who are we talking to today, Joanna?
Yeah, so we have William Shaw. William is a business leader with over 26 years of experience in the airline industry. His career started at British Airways, and after doing his master's degree at Stanford, he co-founded one of the first low-cost airlines in LATAM, Viva Air, taking it from a drawing board, since it was his Stanford Business School project, to profitability. And he sold the company in 2016 to Island Aviation. Today, William is the founder and CEO of Ultra Air. And actually, on a personal level, I have to say that William is generous, creative, fun, and with an unbeatable sense of humor. I have really deep admiration for how much he cares for his friends and his daughter, Emma. William is a connector of people, cities, and countries. I'm so excited to have you here with us, William. How are you today? Where are you in the world?
I'm currently in, as they say in Mexico, mi casa su casa. I'm currently in your casa in Medellin, up in Rio Negro. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you for those generous words of introduction. It's great. I want to hear Paul say British Airways because it's going to sound different in an Irish accent than in a.
British Airways.
There we go. Sounds very different. I love it.
Good stuff. And so thanks a million as well, Will. It's brilliant that you're joining us today. So can you take us on that journey from the moment when you went to uni, your early career in British Airways, and can you tell us how you grew up and how you chose a career in business?
Sometimes you don't choose a career chooses you. Right. Everybody's life is different, and taking a step back and looking at how I got here, it was very serendipitous, to be honest. I dropped out of college. I dropped out of uni to go backpack Europe, and of course, it did not make my dad happy at all. And he said, "Well, how are you going to pay for it?" And I said, "I don't know. I'll figure it out." I've always kind of done my own thing. And so I said, "Dad, I'm going to go work for an airline." British Airways is hiring people at the airport in Mexico City. I'm Mexican, born and raised in Mexico. So I'm going to go work for British Airways and they'll give me a free ticket to go backpack Europe. And my dad's like, fine, do whatever. So I did, and I started out as a check-in agent in 1993. I love the way like old people always use dates, and I'm starting to use a lot of dates now, right? Which I think is now categorizing me in the old people sector. But yes, 1993 is when I started with British Airways as a check-in agent, and I don't know, I've always loved people, and the airline industry is about people. Right. It's about taking people places. It's about treating them well, caring for their safety. You have a duty of care to the people that are traveling with you. And so I was enamored by the business, and from check-in agent, I went to ticketing supervisor, check-in supervisor, ramp handler, ramp supervisor, load and balance, account manager, groups, reservations, call center, and then again, dating myself, 1998, British Airways gave me the opportunity to become sales manager in Colombia. And 1998 was not the top of Colombia's history, right? It was not the easiest place to live in the world. There was a lot of conflict with the FARC and a lot of not so nice things happening in the country. But I freaking loved it. I still love it. I still love this country. Still believe in it very much so. And so I came to Colombia. They made me general manager 6 months after I arrived, then regional manager for the Andean region. So I looked after Venezuela as well. And Venezuela, I was invited to the inauguration of President Chavez, and we know where that ended up. And then British Airways offered me a role to become cargo director for the West Coast of the United States. And it was like, okay, I don't know the cargo business that well. Took me about a week to learn. It's not difficult at all. You move boxes and you put them on a plane, put them on the other side, get it to people, and that's it. And most of my customers were about strawberries and cherries and salmon and Alaskan king crab, and I know a lot about the perishable business and how that happens. And then I kind of got bored with my life. Where to? What's next? I was married at the time, and I told my ex-wife, and I want to emphasize ex-wife.
Noted.
Noted. My ex-wife, Scottish, by the way. My ex-wife. I want to do a master's degree, and I to this day her words resonate, within me. Well, why do you want to do a master's degree? I don't know. I want to advance my career. We're living in Silicon Valley, so maybe I can get a job with a big company. But big companies only hire people like from Stanford, Wharton, Harvard. You're not that smart. And I was okay. Well, thanks for believing in me. Really, that's awesome. No, really, you're not that smart. Took me a while, but I applied. I did the GMAT. I applied to Stanford Business School, got in to Stanford Business School, and got divorced about 3 months later. And then so I'm divorced, living in Silicon Valley, but working for cargo, not my happiest place. Didn't know where to go, what to do, broke. So I get there and I start talking to a guidance counselor at Stanford, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with my life. And he says, well, go talk to people, see what opportunities are. You have no responsibilities. Nothing's tying you here. Where would you like to go? I said, I love Colombia. And he goes, well, go down there and start talking to people. And I came down here and I started talking to people, and I talked to a great friend of mine, Juan Emilio Posada. And he said, dude, well, let's research an airline. And I said, well, that sounds ambitious. And I started researching airlines at Stanford and figuring out what the business model that works is. And the business model that everybody is thriving for is low cost, right? Why pay more to get there? What you want to do is get there. You don't want to pay more because somebody gives you a soft drink or somebody gives you a sandwich. You just want to get there, right? You want to get there. You want to go to Cartagena for the weekend. You want to go to Santa Marta. You might want to go to Cali to see your friends. And when I was in Colombia, a friend of mine said, oh, let's go to Cartagena. I said, great. And we looked at the price of tickets, and it was $800 to go to Cartagena for the weekend. And I said, wow, that's really expensive. So we'll drive there. And I don't know if you've ever driven from Bogota to Cartagena on a bank holiday weekend. It's long. It was almost 20 hours in the car with traffic. Colombia is geographically very diverse, but it has both mountain ranges intersecting right in Colombia. It's very mountainous. It's 2-lane highways. It's very difficult to get through. You have big buses, lorries as you call them, or trucks if you're American English, and it's just very, very, very tiring to get there by car. After that trip, we came back to San Francisco, and some friends said, oh, let's go to Las Vegas. I'm like, sure, I'm game. I'm single now. Let's go to Las Vegas.
Can you tell us anything about Las Vegas, or what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas?
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But the impressive part was my ticket cost me $50. I flew on a low-cost airline and it cost me $50. And I said, it cannot be that in Colombia it costs you $800 to go to Cartagena, and for the same distance in the same type of plane, right, that burns the same type of fuel, the same amount of fuel, I'm paying $50. There's got to be something here. So I started researching low-cost carriers and who were successful and who weren't successful, and did my entire thesis. I invited Juan Emilio along. I invited another friend, Fred Jacobson, and Gabriel Migowski, who was studying with me at Stanford, and we decided to go for it. We said, okay, let's go get the funding. Let's go do this, and it was very complex because not a lot of people believed in the possibility of implementing a low-cost carrier in Colombia, and more importantly, going up against an airline that was almost, at that time, almost 100 years old, right? It was a big company. It's been here forever. But we did. We were successful. When I left, it had 15% market share. It was growing. It hired over 2,000 people, created jobs. The market in Colombia grew from 12 million people traveling domestically to 27 million people traveling domestically, because as fares dropped, more people wanted to fly. If it costs you $800 to go to Cartagena, you might go once a year. If it costs you $400, you'll go twice. But if it costs you $50 to go to Cartagena, then suddenly you're saying, wow, I can go every other weekend, or I can, maybe really pay attention to that long distance relationship I have with that person in Cartagena. So yeah, I mean, we really connected this country, and it's great. Sold it in 2016, and I went on to do some other stuff. An airline in Africa called Green Africa with a CEO and founder called Babawanda Alofabi. Helped out an airline in Argentina called Flybondi. Started a project which still hasn't taken off, which is called Flycan in the Dominican Republic. And then I went and helped out some friends in Mexico with a company called Interjet, which we sold to some new investors who were obliged to put in a lot of money in, but didn't, and that airline now has failed to restart. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Came back to Colombia in June and said, wow, there's still an opportunity for another low-cost carrier in Colombia, and now we're starting Ultra Air, and hopefully we'll be flying by the end of this year, by the end of 2021. And it's a long, drawn-out process of finding investors and creating manuals and safety manuals and operational manuals and how you're going to do the maintenance and getting it all approved by the Civil Aviation Authority. But yeah, that's what we're doing now. So hopefully that wasn't too long-winded. And for those people listening, I'm sorry if I bored you and you fell asleep, but serve yourself another cup of coffee because this might get interesting.
Whoa, definitely not bored at all. But wait a second, because we need to zoom into different parts of it. Like, you tell the story, and it's almost unbelievable to know that you went in only 4 years to actually run an entire country at such an international company. The question that probably a lot of people is asking is, how do you do that? Like, what are those things? What are those tools? What are those skills? What are those habits that William Shaw has to take you from that backpacker that only was working at the beginning as a Polish summer job, and then running an entire region and having 2 airlines? What are those tools? What makes you successful?
Wow, that's like, here, have this loaded gun, right? See what you can. No, I think it's a great question. I always bring up the story that my ex-wife said, "You're not that smart," and I think that's probably one of the biggest drivers, right? Somebody you expect to believe in you, not to believe in you, right? And I think it was spite that was driving me for a little while there. But more importantly, I think there's two parts to that question, right? Because there's the entrepreneur, right?
Yes.
And successful entrepreneurs aren't built like ordinary people, right? Successful entrepreneurs are more disciplined than anybody else, right? For those of you listening, if you Google the picture of Jeff Bezos in his first desk at Amazon, right?
I love that.
You can see it all over the place. And there's a couple of things that really resonate within me when you see that picture. Number one, it's taken at night, right? That means the guy's burning the midnight oil, right? And he's there, right? And you can see there's a little bit of a mess around him. His office is not too tidy, right? Which means that he's focused. He's focused on the tasks that he has, right? People with absolutely immaculate offices, there's no problem with that, but have a little bit of spare time to take care of the way the office looks. People who are focused on the task and they're really working hard towards one task may tend to not pay attention to the way their office looks, right? And more on what they're doing, right? So that also resonated extremely well with me in that picture. And then the third thing is he had a vision, right? And all you see on that wall is Amazon.com, right? And he was very, very driven to actually make it successful. And he believed in himself, right? So as an entrepreneur, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm working for myself." Really, you woke up at 11 o'clock in the morning and you're still in your pajamas. Yeah. If you were your boss, you'd fire yourself, right? Entrepreneurs wake up 6:30 in the morning. They're at their computer. They're at their desk. They're on their phones, right? They may be in pajamas on their phones, but they're working, right? So I think that's one part, right, in the entrepreneurial process. And I remember, when we were starting with Gabriel and Fred and Juan Emilio, Gabriel was in China doing an internship in China, and at some points the only time we could get together was 5 o'clock in the morning, right? And we would have Zoom didn't exist at the time. We used Skype, and we would do Skype calls 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, because that was the only time where we all had spare time, right? I was 100% dedicated to the project, but Fred and Juan Emilio had their own jobs and Gabriel was doing an internship. But we had calls at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it was 9, 10 o'clock at night. And so, when you're your own boss, you have to really hold yourself accountable. The other part, and I think, is what makes a strong leadership, and leadership positions, right? So you go from the entrepreneur and now you're running a company suddenly with 500 employees, 600 employees, with a lot of visibility and a lot behind you. And I mean, I think there's so many books on leadership and there's so many great leaders out there. There's a couple of things that really resonate within me. And sorry, I think I'm using the word resonate, but there's no better description of something that really vibrates within you. Couple of things. Number one is understanding of the situation you're in, having a lot of situational awareness, right? Are the people who are working for you tired, right? What's going on in their lives, right? Because you can try and push them, but each person has different aspects of their life that affect their capacity to work, right? And you got to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're having fun at. Because if you're not enjoying it, if you're really not enjoying what you do, just stop doing it. Stop doing it. I think Steve Jobs said it best, that if you come home and you ask yourself, did I have fun doing what I do today? And for many days, the answer is no. Stop doing it. Just do something else. And he's right. You have to enjoy it, right? So leaders, make sure that people have fun at work, make sure that they're driven to do what they do, but are also very aware of what's going on, what's the pulse of the company. Is everybody focused on the task at hand? Does everybody share the same vision, the same mission? Are we going to do something? For us, when I started Viva, it was awesome seeing people who could never fly in a plane, and they were asking the most, what you would consider ridiculous questions, right? For somebody who's been in air travel for a long time.
Yeah.
How to put on a seatbelt, right? If if I go standing, is the price cheaper? Right? No, you can't go standing on a plane, but I can go standing on a bus. Why can't I go standing on a plane? You can't go standing on a plane, right? Can I take my chickens on board? Well, no, you can't take your chickens on board. No, that's not the way it goes, right? And I remember we started and we didn't have assigned seating, right? It was what's called free seating. So you just got on board and you free seating. Well, there were people who would, like on a school bus, they would go in and say, these 3 rows are saved for my friends and family. Well, no, you can't really do that. No, I saved them. No, I'm sitting here. No. And so it was a different model. It was something we implemented, and so happy to see that more and more Colombians have been able to travel safer, more on time and cheaper, and look forward to doing it again.
I have to say that it was so different. We went with my family to celebrate my dad's 70th birthday, and the entire plane sang happy birthday for my father. Like, that doesn't happen anywhere else.
but Johanna, this is Colombia, right? And when somebody asks me, what do you think of Colombia? I go, well, Colombian people are friendly beyond comparison to any other culture that I've known, right? You throw 3 confettis up in the air and that's it. It's a party, right? Anywhere is a party. You're always having fun. You have, Colombians have this great sense of humor of themselves, right? And you like to go around in a bus, right? And you call it a chiva bus, and you're drinking aguardiente on a bus, and you're just going around and you're having fun. And I've never been able to find another country that has 13 bank holidays a year. So, and then they put them together with, every month, and I don't have them off the top of my head, but every month there's some festival or some party in some part of Colombia, and everybody goes there. Las ferias de Manizales, el Carnaval de Barranquilla, el Festival Vallenato, las ferias de Cali, la Feria de las Flores. I mean, you just can go on, and las ferias de Cincelejo. All these different places, have their parties that attract a lot of people, and they were very difficult to get to until low-cost travel came to this country. And so when you I don't want to say exploit that, but when you encourage people to actually have a good time, right? You're on a plane, you're sharing a ride, you're going somewhere fun, right? Why not sing happy birthday for somebody, right? I remember people saying, people in Viva Colombia, they don't have the fasten seatbelt sign. They have clap when you land sign, right? Because everybody claps when they land. Yeah, you should always clap when you land. You got there. You're at your destination. You're gonna see your loved one, or you're gonna go to the party, or you're gonna take a vacation. Well, why not? It's awesome. You clap at the end of a movie, or you clap at the end of a theatrical production. Why not? It was awesome. So yeah, I love that Colombian culture of fun.
Amazing. I just want to take you back a little bit, Will, and you got your buddies together, you came up with this great plan, you saw a gap in the market. How hard was it explaining to investors that you needed money for an airline? I mean, I can't imagine people hear that every day.
Yeah, not easy, Paul. So there's a couple of things. Timing is everything in finances, right? And there's cycles. And I think this pandemic not only has brought the end of an economic cycle, it's also brought in a lot of economic hardship. But I can't forget that when we started looking for funding for Viva Colombia, it was 2009. It's the worst economic crisis the world had ever seen, well, since 1929, right? But this one was faster, stronger in a shorter time period. So the first time I went and I pitched this idea, and I went and I pitched to to all the investors, all the little sharks that are swimming around Stanford looking for that idea, right, to put money in, right? They're all looking for the next Google, the next Facebook, right, the next TikTok. So they're all around there. And so I would pitch them this idea of starting a low-cost airline in Colombia. And starting by the fact that most investors spelt Colombia wrong. It's C-O-L-O, not C-O-L-U, right? So and geographically they knew where it was, but that's about as much as they knew. But yet they saw interest, and there was one investor who said, "Yep, love the idea. Yep, you got a great team. I mean, you got people with you that know the business, know the area. You certainly have done your job. We'll buy 50% of the company for $50 million." I was like, "Wow, really? Great. Yeah, we'll send you a non-binding term sheet, but yeah, go ahead, and we'll iron out the details later." And this was in July 2008. So I was like, "Wow, where do I go and buy a Ferrari? I mean, this is awesome, right? I just made $50 million out of PowerPoint. This is great." And then the economic crisis came along in October, and I called them up, and they said, "Listen, we just all bets are off. We're not honoring any agreements, and sorry, can't do it." And along came about 6 to 8 months of living in my best friend's couch, going to see presentations, and then I gave classes at a great university to kind of pay the bills, right? And did a little bit of consulting to help pay the bills, but always with the dream of starting the airline. And got a little bit of seed money, seed capital, helped me out until this thing gets started. And it wasn't until 2010, November 2010, that we were able to close the deal with the institutional investors, the bigger investors. So it took the better part of 2.5 years to actually get the funds required. But it was a different time then. I think, people kind of knew that low-cost airlines worked, but they always said, they work in Europe, they work in the States. I don't think it's going to work in Colombia. No. People are too used to flying in first class, and no. And the incumbent airlines are too big, and no, you can't do that. Well, 8 years later, Viva is, the second largest airline in Colombia, gaining market share, while the largest airline in Colombia is in Chapter 11 and having to go through an entire restructure of their fares and services and what they're doing to compete with a low-cost carrier.
Very inspirational. What business lessons have you taken from the current pandemic that you can implement in the future?
You can never have too much cash in the bank. It's very, very, very curious, right? In terms of business lessons for this pandemic, I think that there's a lot of lessons learned from this pandemic, right? And for me, it was a struggle because I helped the Alemans, because it wasn't mine. I helped the Alemans sell Interjet, and then I'm out of a job, and I'm moving back to Colombia, and but there's nothing happening in the airline business. So, and you're kind of stuck, not being able to move, not being able to go anywhere, not being able to travel. But it really starts to making you appreciate what you have, right? I thought, wow, 2020 was going to be, this great year where I was going to turn this company around and do. And then I realized, wow, we were lucky that we were able to sell it to someone, and I'm very lucky to be able to spend more time with my daughter, and I'm very lucky that I did have savings, so I can go on a little bit longer in this pandemic without a job, or start this new project, which is called Ultra. But nobody could actually have planned, for this pandemic. There's no way you could have foreseen this, right? The length of time it's taken, the amount of time people have done it. But what it has done for me has shown me a great opportunity. And I think they say that luck is by definition at that intersection where opportunity and preparation meet, right? And I see a great opportunity in aircraft are cheap. There's a lot of airplanes out there that don't have a house, right? There's a lot of people with great experience in the airline business that need to want to have to find a job. So talent is readily available. And so then the only thing you need is a little bit of cash to get an airline going that doesn't have any debt, right? The market's picking up. By, I don't know, the end of the year, we're going to see the market just skyrocket, because I firmly believe we're all tired of being in a cage, right? Business people will continue to use Zoom, and I think virtuality is going to be a part of our lives from now on. But it does not substitute face-to-face communication, time in the same room, right? I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he goes, I'm impressed. Zoom meetings start on time. And I said, yeah, they always start on time. They're absolutely, boom, spot on. Yeah, they say 11 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 11:01, 11:02. You're like apologizing. Sorry, I'm late. Right?
Yes, totally.
Right. And face-to-face meetings, you're always, most people, especially in Latin America, you're about 5-10 minutes late, and then you arrive and you have that conversation about how are your kids and what's going on and what's happening. Doesn't happen in Zoom. Zoom is you have an hour. This is it. It's all business. You can't take away that social aspect of doing business, right? The going to dinner, the get to know that person, establish trust, right? So I think we'll see a little bit of business travel, not as much, because there'll definitely be a lot of virtuality, but you will see a lot more personal travel, right? Because people, I managed to survive on 50% of my salary for an entire year or 18 months, right? I can live differently now. I can enjoy life more.
That's amazing. I think you discovered like 2 or 3 questions that we had on the
There are
list.
4, I think.
Exactly. Well, you are incredible at putting together teams and bringing the right people to work with you. What do you look in that people? Like if someone wants to work for you, for your company, what do they need?
I think it's a combination of 2 things, right? I don't want people who agree with me, right? In Spanish se llama el comité de aplausos. I don't want that, right? Gabriel Migalski, if he was sitting right here, would tell you the same thing I'm about to say. Nobody disagreed with me more than Gabriel Migalski, and nobody disagreed more with Gabriel Migalski than me. And it was that respectful disagreement where we had to work together, but we had to come to terms on what to do, that always yielded the best result. Always yielded the best result. So Gabriel was he kind of grounded me on a lot. I'm always the crazy ideas, let's do this, let's do that. I want to have a concert in the middle of the sky, and I want to do. And then Gabriel was a little bit more subdued in that way, right? Very mathematical, he's an engineer by design. So his strength was analysis and looking at the hard numbers. And my strength is, a little bit of the creative side, why not? Why can't we do it this way? And we worked very well together. So you should never, when you're looking for a team, don't look at people that have the same. You should look at people who have the same values, but not the same strength as you. Look for people whose strength is your weakness. Because if you hire somebody with the same strength that you're just making your strength redundant, and you're doubling up on your weaknesses. That's all you're doing. So look for people whose strength is your weakness. And the other one, and this is more personal one for me, I don't like being the smartest person in the room. I consider myself to be intelligent, yes, but I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to constantly learn from other people. And when you have a team, look for people you admire. And it doesn't have to be seniority or wealth, or just, there's so many people you can admire for so many different reasons, right? I'm terrible at writing. If you ask me to write an email, it'll be 5 lines, because if not, I'm going to grab the phone and I'm going to call you, right? That's not my strength. My strength is, verbal communication, not written. I admire people who have the patience to sit there and write an absolutely perfect email or letter, right? And who have the eloquence to put into words and writing what I can't do, right? That's kind of rounded that idea of what makes a great leader in picking and picking team members. The other one, I was just in a discussion yesterday with some members of YPO. Hire slow, fire fast. Make sure, I spend more time with the people I work with than with my girlfriend or my daughter, right? Make sure you really feel that's the right person for that role. And when it's not, and you're sure it's not, don't second guess it. Just part ways in an amicable, respectable, absolutely professional way, but part ways really quickly.
Well, how do you train and feed your creativity?
I think I'm going to be very embarrassed to say this, but in the honesty of this podcast, there's two things. Video games, right? I am a gamer at heart, so video games. I try not to spend too much time, but I spend quality time gaming, and it kind of uses another part of your brain. And while I'm gaming on something that's pretty simple to do, you kind of your brain goes other places and starts being creative. That's my creativity. As for my teams, I used to have, and I used to always make sure we had time to have a creative moment, and things come out of creative moments. When the conversation starts in a meeting, starts dwindling off into something else, right? Especially when you're looking at that new promotion or what you're doing, it's not a bad idea to let it dwindle off. Let people's kind of ideas start flowing. And so you put on this YouTube video, they get inspired by something, right? You start talking about this time, that time, this happened. You kind of got to lead the conversation into a creative space, and not, let's talk about the birthday party last Friday. So it's a little hard to kind of emulate that creative space in 5 minutes, but just let people think, what would be a good idea, what worked, how did this happen, and you got to let their vibe just kind of come through in that meeting. And you'd be once you got that creative process in place, and it works pretty quickly, you'd be amazed at what you can achieve, right?
Amazing, Will, and you've been absolutely fantastic with your time. And I suppose before we wrap today, is there any kind of resources you could suggest to the audience? Is there anything inspiring you at the minute?
Any resources, as in?
Would you like to plug your social media? Is there any books you're reading, anything like that?
You know what? They say that every CEO should be reading between 24 to 36 books a year. I'm not a big reader. I spend more time video gaming and talking to my girlfriend and daughter when I have spare time than anything else. But there are a couple of books, a couple of great ones that I could recommend, right? And these are very, very simple one afternoon kind of books that you can read, right? Now, I could recommend my favorite professor from Stanford called Jeffrey Pfeffer, who still teaches a class called Paths to Power. And any book of his is just absolutely incredible, on leadership, on what power means, how to use it, how to wield it. So, if you're looking for big kind of management style book, Jeffrey Pfeffer is great. But my favorite book in the whole wide world is called The Alchemist, right? And people kind of forget, what the story of The Alchemist is about. And I don't want to ruin it for those of you listening that have never read The Alchemist. But life is a journey, right? And it's not about the destination. It definitely is about the ride. I've been homeless twice in my life, right? And now I have the pleasure of walking into a room and people, oh, he founded an airline. Yeah, well, how about this guy doesn't have, 2 pennies to rub together to buy a sandwich. I've been there, both places, right? And enjoy the ride and enjoy the moment. And you don't have to do anything you don't want to in life, right? Just have fun with it, right? And it's probably the best message I could kind of leave you with. We were joking at the beginning. I've kind of had my heart broken, feel the pain, right? Because if you don't know how to feel the pain, you can't feel the joy either, right? They go hand in hand, right? Life has a little bit of pain, hopefully has a lot of joy, but do enjoy the ride, right? And if I'm on all social media, you can find me, William Shaw. But more importantly than that, I thank you for your time. It's always great talking to you. I've enjoyed it. The Latin accent and the Irish accent together make it work. And hopefully it'll be interesting. And anybody listening to this podcast will say, yeah, I got a couple of golden nuggets out of it. And it was a good use of my time.
Amazing. When you're back in Ireland, maybe in a future Paddy's Day, I'll take you down to that nightclub and we'll have a couple of pints.
You know what? Let's go to what's the other place? It's a very touristy place. The very, very famous pub. Let's not go to that nightclub.
I'll take you to all the dives. I know them all. I'll take you to all the.
No, well, thank you for having me. The most important thing that I can tell you, if anybody's listening and wants to apply for a job at Ultra, just go onto our website, www.ultraair, that's with 2a's.com, and you can upload your CV and apply for the different roles we're going to be having in Ultra. Thank you, guys.
There you go. Thank you. That was our interview with William Shaw. What do you think, Paul? Did you like it?
He was such a nice guy. We were talking just before we started the interview, and he was telling us about his time in Ireland in 2017. He came over for St. Patrick's Day, and he ended up in a in a nightclub. Do you know that nightclub you have in each kind of big city, where it's the one where everybody from the country, like all the rural areas, come up and they go to that nightclub? That's where he ended up, of all places. But super nice guy, super fun guy, and just really great interview.
Yes, I also really enjoy it. Next time he goes, probably you can show him around the best places. So that was it for today. We hope you enjoyed as much as we did, and you can follow us in social media. Remind us our social media, Paul.
You can reach us at How to Be the Difference at the Intern Group, or on social media at the Intern Group. And also, please rate and subscribe to wherever it is you get your podcasts. Until next time, thank you very much to William Shaw, Johanna Molina.
Thank you all for listening.
Thanks for listening as well. Best of luck.
Bye-bye.